Greetings, beloved. This is the Melanin Report 360, the Melanin Report 360, the Melanin Report 360. So another day in America, KKK. Not surprising of the events. If you're just tuning in, my name is Deanne, and I wanted to talk to you very briefly about the events from yesterday, you know. And so I want you to like, share, subscribe, follow, like, share, subscribe, follow, like, share, subscribe, follow. The Melanin Report 360, the Melanin Report 360, the Melanin Report 360. I just came from the health club and had to work out today. Sometimes I work out because it's going to change, kind of, I guess, lift up my sentiments from yesterday and pretty much the entire time I have been on this planet, 57 years. So another day. So I apologize for my tie. I just literally came back from LA Fitness and had a good workout. So where do we begin? We begin with fair use disclaimer. That's where we begin. All right. So copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Okay, got that out of the way. So let's talk about it. Where do I begin? I've always, at some level, I have experienced racism for many years. So I'm not going to say yesterday was unusually racist, the treatment. But I've received it personally because of my name has a lot of people confused. So for example, I purchased my residence, and when I was in the process with the title company closes you here versus the East Coast, I've purchased properties and attorneys close you. So it's a little less, I don't want to say intimidating, but it's a little bit more kind of a coziness because it's a title company. So they're not attorneys. And so with that, long story short, I live in an HOA. And by living in an HOA, we had to, I remember Irma, who was my title lady, she sent emails back and forth with the HOA, make sure that I was, ready to move in and there wasn't anything else I needed to do except for pay 2 months in advance, I think, of HOA dues. And so I complied, whatever they needed, I took care of it. And so my name has been, quote unquote, misleading because they don't expect to see me walk through the door. And so going back and forth with, Irma and the HOA, blah, blah, blah. So when I moved in, like towards the end of July 2016. The HOA treasurer, she lives on my quote unquote block. So these are townhomes and so forth. And so she lives on my block, 2 doors down. And so, she was looking for Deanne Meningall, you know. And when I showed up, she thought I was the renter, even though the sign was still, it was for sale. So she saw me, so she assumed I was the renter, and she sent me some violations, that I wasn't in compliance. And I will speak highly of Irma Ragsdale, because when I sent her all this communication I was getting from the HOA, you know, she was like appalled, like, why are they sending you this? So I went down to the office to Irma and just showed it. You showed her the letter and all like that, and $100 fine for this, $100 fine for that, and blah blah blah. And Irma sent a scathing letter to the HOA and saying, we contacted your office to make sure Miss Meningall was in compliance and blah, blah, blah. And she did everything, that you requested, blah, 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 blah. She had the receipts. I had the receipts. So they backed off of me and they rescinded all that stuff. But, sometimes in life, we have allies. We definitely have allies. And sometimes they don't show up in Black or brown bodies. Okay. But Irma went to bat for me, which rightfully so. So it would have been a disservice to me for her not to show the receipt, say, hey, we contacted you and we wanted to make sure everything was, lickety split, fine. We went to close, and then, Deanne received all the stuff. Like what, but she called her out. So I say all that to say, not all Caucasians, I'm going to say, are bad, but the overriding majority of them would not have done that, would not have gone to bat. I'm not going to say exclusively, Irma is an exception, but for that moment, I would say she definitely went to bat, and the HOA backed off of me because I had already, sent in, if it was monetary, whatever, I wanted to go to close, and I went to close. It was 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. So I say all that to say, we have some allies. We definitely have allies in our community, because I will say it, not all Caucasians are bad. Not all, melanated people are good. Okay. So I will make that distinction a little bit later. But I say all of that to say, yesterday, it was a clear sign that we have not made progress in this country. Black president, this and that, blah, blah. We have not moved the needle. Perhaps things that were rightfully, like the Civil Rights Acts of 1968, or 1963, Civil Rights Act of 1970, 60s. I'll just say 60s. I think it was a double-edged sword. Like I said, if we had not been able to shop with other people, we would have been able to strengthen our economics because we would have had to have spent money in our community. But the floodgates were open for us to spend money. We obviously have enough revenue, which is maybe the 10th largest, in essence, the 10th largest country. We have revenue of over a couple of $1 billion annually, but we send it right back to them. And so I just wanted to say that yesterday was what we had already knew. If you lived in this country any amount of time, if you're over the age of 40, definitely over the age of 40, you've seen this. You've seen it. But yesterday, it was so crystal clear that the biased treatment of our people, when we are protesting a death, the 60s protests, or the peace and love, peace, love, activism, in the 60s, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about for civil rights or these rights, we take to the street, rightfully so. We take to the street and we want our excuse me. We want our voices to be heard. We want our voices to be heard. That's First Amendment. There's a reason for it being there. So we try to exercise that right. And when in the last 10 years or 15 years, we have been protesting, unarmed Black men, women, Breonna Taylor, a recent, and George Floyd. These were major. There's so many that we are not hearing about, and so I don't want to misspeak when I say those were the two main ones, because I know any life loss, in the melanated community, it's really so horrible. It's so horrific. Because we feel it on every cell of our being. We feel the loss. Even if there isn't a connection per se, we still have a sense of loss. When we read about it, we hear it on the news, so forth, so on. We have a sense of loss. And when there's a sense of loss, there's despair, there's solemn, there's, apathy. I mean, it's just so many emotions, because 9 times out of 10, the people are unarmed. The people are armed. Our people are not armed. And when they are armed, and if they was the young man who was a cafeteria worker, and that was probably a year and a half ago. And the pig police officer shot him. His wife was, I think, in the driver's. Yeah, she was in the passenger seat, and his daughter. Do you know what kind of image that's going to remain in her mind, spirit, body? That is going to remain there for years and years and years to come. That was so horrific. And he told the officer, I have I have, he had a permit. He told him, it was in the vehicle, and he still got killed. They shoot to kill us. But they made a choice. They made a choice when they've been tear gassing our people. They have arrested zip ties to detain them. This is the USA, also known as the KKK. So it was front and center. And I will say this. I will say this. I caught the tail end of Biden's remarks, President-elect Biden. And I think he said his grandson connected the dots and said they would not have treated these domestic terrorists. I don't know if these are his words, if they were Black people. Amen, young man. Amen. And at least, I will say this, at least he, meaning President-elect Biden, gave those comments in his remarks. I can appreciate that. Now, what do we do with that information? That's the question. The question becomes, how is this going to change the vibration in the society or not? I think Trump supporters are not going far anytime soon because these are homemade terrorists, domestic terrorists. And the fact that we treat them, when we're mourning the loss of a sister or brother at the hands of police, and that's why we're marching. That's why we're marching, in and of itself. That's the purpose of the march. Gather, show solidarity, march down the street, maybe have a rally, and we're gone. Okay. But those domestic terrorists, they had an agenda. The agenda was to storm the Capitol. I have this faulty light. I'm gonna probably go downstairs next week. Yeah, it's it's not surprising because if you've been on this planet in this country at least 30 years, it's going to be right in your face. I'm saying we have some allies. We definitely have allies. We definitely have allies. But what I'm saying to you, if I see an ally, I'm going to say, why can't you have the Black Lives Matter mask on? Because we have to be in solidarity. If you're for the cause, be for the cause. Okay? And this is why what happened yesterday will probably happen again. I'm just saying. Because these people are not, these domestic terrorists, they found somebody in Arizona. They found people were coming from all over. I think there was one local person, at least that's what they were telling us. One local person. And they arrested, I think last night, they arrested at that point when I did my show, they arrested 16. So now it's up to 68. Woo! Such a large number. Black Lives Matter protests or tear gas, bombs set, to disperse the crowd. First Amendment right. First Amendment right. according to the Constitution I have a copy of, First Amendment right. No, doesn't apply to people who look like me and you. Doesn't apply. So we must, at least President-elect Biden put it in his remarks. So he should pretty much put a task force together to deal with this issue, race, like a community format, and they're on salary, and they kind of identify and they find out these fractions that have to be dealt with. Because if 68 people were arrested, let's just say 70, let's just say even number 70, there was at least, I'm going downstairs on Sunday, promise, okay, because the light keeps going out. If 70 people were arrested, there was at least, I'm gonna say 3,000. I don't know the numbers. What I saw, it was like at least 2 or 3,000, maybe more. I don't know if they gave the counts, but it was a lot of people, a lot of domestic terrorists. And they are not isolated. They, unlike the guy that blew himself up on Christmas Day, so he was more of a loner, blah, blah, blah. So these people like are out front and center. They deliver our mail. They, fill in the blank. They are teachers. And hopefully if they said they did not know, the FBI said they did not know the CIA, I don't believe that. I think they just let it happen. I think they just let it happen. And the open racist, I think I was listening to Mary Trump, Trump's niece, and she said this country is racist. And it is. We can't go get around it. We're not gonna I dream a genie blink and it's gonna be disappear. No. That's not how racism works. And so with that said, we need to understand the importance of, sorry about that. We need to recognize what it is, name it, and let people know what they're doing. We have to name it. Yesterday, that was racism because those people were treated not like domestic terrorists, like they were. They were given milk and cookies. I mean, there were so many people there were clips of people, officers running away from the domestic terrorists, running away, running up the stairs. I saw, it was a brother. I guess he was gonna hit them or something, but he decided to run. So we are policed so different, so drastically different. And at least Biden's grandson called it out. He was right on the money. Right on the money. But this is US. This is US. This is US. And I think we're doing a disservice to allow we just have They were emboldened with the lack of policing. There were enough police. There was enough police. They could have shot rubber bullets. That would break you down to your knees. It wouldn't be lethal, but it would probably, if people that were being of riotous nature, they should have been zip tied and sat on the ground like they would do Black Lives Matter protesters or uprising. See, the language on the TV, on the programming, the channels, the language they didn't want to use. They just would say, well, what happened yesterday? They wouldn't even name it. They wouldn't even name it. Domestic terrorists. Until Biden used that phrase in his remarks, a few minutes I saw, a little bit more, they were using the same language. A little bit more on the TV screen. They were using the language. Mm, 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 mm. Very obvious. So we had a reawakening. If we ever thought that we're in a post-racist era, brakes were slammed on. No, we are not. We are not in a post-racial America. I don't think there will ever be a post-racial America. I don't think we have the ability to be a post-racial America. So I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised for many reasons, but it was more confirmation because I came out, a few hours of watching this yesterday. I immediately came out and said, I connected all of the dots, obviously, but to say, BLM people would have been met with such, they probably would have been using lethal force. All those Black people up to the Capitol, breaching the Capitol, the security of the Capitol, I would think they were, quote unquote, that would be cause of action. Why were they running from the protesters? Why were they running from the domestic terrorists? They had guns. They had some ammunition, I think bombs. How did this happen? Because we're in the United States. That's why. Plain and simple. So I hope this administration, he called it out what it is. I want to find out if there are going to be some steps taken to first 100 days. We have to address it. This country, I don't think it's going anywhere. Definitely not in my lifetime. But I'm saying I don't think it's going anywhere because I know the deep-seatedness of the root. You've got to destroy the root, and the foundation is so deep in the consciousness, in the society in by which we live. So, because it was built, if this country had not been started in the method it was, enslaving our people for, almost 500 years, not chattel slavery, but slavery in and of itself is slavery, enslaving our people. Native Americans put on reservations. So there was a sense of entitlement out the gate. So when you feel entitled, you can scale the capital. Excuse me. No COVID, no COVID. You will be able and not have anything happen to you. Those people were able to go home. They were not detained. Maybe you said 60, 67, 67 last count arrested. 67 out of a couple of thousand or 3,000. So that's like what, 1%? No, not 1%. That's probably 0.1. So we have a lot, they have a lot of work to do. Only thing we're doing is living our best life, and hopefully, you can live it fully, completely, etc. But the fact that we live in this country, it's a racist society. We saw it yesterday. They treat our people one way, they treat their people another way. 67 people were arrested. That's it. But only 67 people bum rush the Capitol. There was probably 100, 200 people in the lobby. Why were they not all detained, arrested, etc.? This is what is going on. It has been going on since this inception of this country. But yesterday it was front and center. We are not in a post-racial America. It does not exist. It does not exist. It does not exist. So I'm going to wrap up here. I just wanted to highlight the imbalances that we have all been. This is not the first time. It's not going to be the last time. This is the stain of slavery, the stain of no reparations, the stain of yesterday and hundreds of years before. But now it's a turning point because the new administration, Trump may be gone out in cuffs, handcuffs, that is. But we definitely need reparations. We definitely need reparations. I've been saying it all along, but when they decide not to do something right, to make a wrong right, that is spitting on the faces of our ancestors that worked the land, enslaved, beaten, raped, robbed, sodomized, etc. The list goes on, burned at the stake, everything, all that is horrific. But when they don't make a wrong, all the wrongs of the years, if they don't have the capacity or the willingness, because that's a choice. That's a choice. And these new folks coming into, I think Georgia just put, we've got 2 Democrat from Arizona. Georgia now has 2 in the runoff. These are new folks. These are new senators. And what I am saying to you is that should be front and center, especially Georgia. All those melanated people in Georgia, I lived in Georgia for many years. So we can make a difference, if they put it to the table, put it on the table for discussion, that'd be a new day. That would be a new day. We are so deserving of reparations. Don't let anyone say, oh, well, that was then. We're in a post-racial America now. BS. That is hogwash. Okay? Reparations, not that it would wipe the slate clean, but we would be able to perhaps leave this country, start a business or businesses, fill in the blank. So, gonna wrap up here, but make sure that you hold the new administration's feet to the fire. If you believe in letter writing, I try to send stuff, certified receipt, return receipt. Let's enact change, because change is so needed. A sense of change. These Proud Boys, these domestic terrorists, they're not going anywhere. They're having children. They're training their children a certain way, and that line will continue. They're not going anywhere. They haven't left the country. They're still here. They're still living amongst us. So, do your due diligence. If you are so inclined to be a ally, not in our community, in another community, person of color, or excuse me, a Caucasian person, wear a Black Lives Matter mask. Be in solidarity, because our victory should be all the planet victory. We can share in a victory, but we have to be in some level of solidarity. If you're for Black Lives Matter, you're marching in the streets, you've been doing that all summer, etc. You saw what happened yesterday and what didn't happen, the policing that did not take place. Show some solidarity with our cause. I know that people who, like his teenage grandson, or I don't know why, I didn't watch the whole report, but the fact that his grandson, Biden's grandson, pointed it out to him. So that's a start. So we're not accepting crumbs anymore. We've always been accepting crumbs. And, mistreatment on the job, workforce, HOA. I mean, we've always kind of had that in the background and now in the front of ourselves, because when we walk into a room, there's something that's, okay, Black women are blah, 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 melanated women, blah, 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 blah. Even though we are the original mother of civilization. So if you disrespect me, you're disrespecting yourself and all that is around you. So you need to honor and respect the mother of civilization. I'm not a child. I'm beyond my years. And we need to recognize and pay most respect to the Black woman and the Black man. So, yeah, it was so obvious today, yesterday especially. But maybe some progress with the new administration. Like, I wanted to see what Trump was going to do. I said, well, they got him in there, so let's see what he's going to do. But he showed his behind, and we have the receipts, so we're done with him. But his legacy, if you will, of the Proud Boys and these guys, or domestic terrorists all the way around, they did not leave the country. They're still in this country, So be careful, be safe, stay safe, be well. And let's just see, we got 13 days left for this administration to be gone. And I don't know about the 25th Amendment. I'm not holding my breath on anything. He is still a white male. If he could just show his behind these last 72 hours, he's a white male. You see what happened, and Trump knew that they were not going to be treated as if they were melanated people, Black folks. He knew that. There was a clear understanding that you would not be treated like an in. And that was what was understood. And so a lot of people just went home. They wreaked havoc. They didn't get arrested. No zip ties, none of that. 67, maybe 70, 85 people were arrested. There was at least 5,000 or maybe 3,000 people there, maybe 2,000. I don't know. But if that were melanated people, Black and brown people, we'll be counting the bodies. We'll be counting the bodies. Okay, well, I will be back on Sunday. Be well, stay safe, and I look forward to your comments. The Melanin Report 360, the Melanin Report 360, the Melanin Report 360. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Follow. All right. Take care. Peace and love. And stay safe. Be careful out there.